Hello, everyone. Today I want to share a true feeling story about how learning English became the bridge that carried me to my dream, my passion, and the life I once only imagined. If you have a big goal, becoming a doctor, engineer, lawyer, entrepreneur, or building something meaningful, English can be a powerful advantage. It's not just a school subject, it's a global skill. English is used by an enormous number of people worldwide, and it's everywhere. In travel, business, technology, and especially on the internet. When you don't understand English, you can lose opportunities without even realizing it. Better jobs, international friendships, and even the ability to enjoy films, books, and knowledge in their original form. But here's the good news. You can start from today. You can grow step by step and become part of a global community. If I could do it, you can too. My name is Sophia, and I'm from Brazil. I grew up in a small town. My family wasn't rich, but we weren't extremely poor either, just a normal middle-class family. We had enough for everyday life, but luxuries were not part of our world. My parents worked hard every single day. My father drove a taxi and my mother was a school teacher. One sentence I heard again and again at home was, "Education is the key." Since I was a little girl, I carried one dream in my heart. I wanted to become a doctor. I still remember the day that dream became real for me. I was 10 years old, sitting in a hospital because my little brother was dangerously sick with a high fever. My parents were terrified. They were crying and I felt helpless. Then a doctor walked in, calm, confident, gentle. He spoke softly and promised my parents that he would take care of my brother. I watched him work. He checked my brother carefully, gave the right medicine, and explained everything with knowledge and control. A few hours later, my brother's fever finally dropped. He was safe. In that moment, something inside me locked into place. I told myself, one day I will become a doctor. I will save lives. But as I grew older, I discovered a harsh reality. To study medicine, English was not optional. It was essential. Most medical textbooks were in English. Research papers were in English. International guidelines were in English. Even in Brazil, many doctors needed English to study, communicate, and keep up with modern medicine. And my English was weak. I went to a public school where English classes were basic and limited. I knew tiny phrases like hello or how are you, but when I saw real sentences, I felt lost. I remember a painful moment in class. My teacher asked me to read a sentence out loud. I stared at the page, and the words felt like they were moving. My mouth froze. I couldn't read. I couldn't understand. I whispered, "I don't know." Some classmates laughed. That day, I went home and sat alone, asking myself, how can I become a doctor if I can't even read one simple sentence in English? I felt defeated, but then something happened, something that changed my direction completely. One evening, my father came home exhausted. He sat beside me and asked why I looked so sad lately. I finally told him the truth. "Dad, I want to be a doctor, but my English is too bad. Without English, I can't study medicine." He stayed quiet for a moment, then he said something simple. but powerful. If English is blocking your dream, then you must learn English. Put yourself somewhere you can't escape it. I was shocked. But Dad, we don't have money for that. He smiled gently and said, we don't have a lot, but we have enough to invest in your future. Your dream matters. That night, my parents and I discussed the best place for me to learn English seriously. We chose Canada for a few reasons. First, English is spoken everywhere, so I would be forced to practice daily. Second, Canada has strong education and language programs. Third, the country is multicultural and friendly to international students. And compared to some other options, it felt more financially possible. Still, it wasn't easy. My parents were making a huge sacrifice. They used nearly all their savings to cover my flight, my language school, and the first months of living costs. Before I left, my mother held my hand and said, Sophia, we're giving you everything we have. Promise you won't quit. I cried. I hugged her tightly. I promise. So with one suitcase, a small amount of money, and a dream bigger than my fear, I flew to Canada. When I landed in Toronto, I felt like I had arrived on another planet. The cold hit me like a wall. In Brazil, the weather was warm. Here, my hands felt frozen. The food was unfamiliar. I missed my mother's cooking. And even though people were kind, they spoke so fast that my brain couldn't keep up. At the airport, someone asked me a simple question, something like, "Do you need a taxi?" I panicked. I didn't fully understand. I smiled and said, yes, even though I wasn't sure what I was agreeing to. Then he asked another question, and my mind went blank. I survived by showing the address on my phone. That night, alone in my small rented room, I cried hard. I thought, what am I doing here? I can't understand anything. How will I survive? The next day, I went to my English school. The teacher asked us to introduce ourselves. When it was my turn, my hands trembled. I stood up and said, "My name's Sophia. I'm from Brazil." I wanted to add more, but my mind went empty. Some students laughed. I sat down feeling humiliated. But that night I made a decision. No matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how many mistakes I make, I will learn English. The first weeks were like being reborn. Back home, I was confident. In Canada, I felt like a child learning to speak. Everything was new. And Canada had its own culture shocks too. Things that surprised me. Students didn't wear uniforms. People dressed however they wanted. People valued personal space more than in my country. The weather could change quickly, sun to rain to snow. Stores had self-checkout, and people scanned their own items. People said sorry for everything, even when it wasn't their fault. Food portions were huge compared to what I was used to. But the biggest shock was real-life English. In school, I learned correct English, but outside people used slang and spoke fast. I heard expressions I never saw in textbooks. I felt like I had studied English for years, but still couldn't understand normal conversations. One day my teacher returned my writing paper full of corrections. She told me kindly, "Your ideas are good, but your sentence structure feels like Portuguese translated into English. That sentence hurt, but it was true. Speaking was even harder. I often knew answers in my head, but when I tried to speak, my words disappeared. I wanted to cry. Then I realized if I don't change, my dream will disappear. So I created a plan. First, I practiced speaking every day, even when I was alone. I used a trick. I wore headphones in public and pretended I was on a phone call, but I was actually talking to myself in English. I described everything around me: the street, the sky, people's clothes, where I was going, what I would order. This helped me practice without fear. Second, I learned a few new words daily and forced myself to use them in sentences, not just memorizing, using. Third, I stopped relying on subtitles. At first, I watched English movies with subtitles, but I noticed I was reading, not listening, so I turned them off. It was difficult in the beginning, but slowly my ears improved. Then came a small moment that felt like a huge victory. One day at a coffee shop, I told myself, "Today I will speak English, no matter what." The barista asked what I wanted. My heart was racing, but I ordered confidently. Then she asked a follow-up question about the type of milk. I understood her and answered naturally. It was a short conversation, but inside my head it felt like I had won a championship. That day I learned something important. English is not about being perfect. It's about having courage. Life in Canada was expensive, so I had to fight financially too. I lived in a small room, shared space to save money, cooked at home, used public transportation, and paid for classes. To survive, I worked part-time at a cafe. My days were exhausting. I woke up early, studied, worked, came home tired, and still practiced English at night. Many times I missed my family so much. I wanted to quit. But every time I felt weak, I remembered my parents' sacrifice, and I told myself, I cannot waste what they gave me. After a few months of daily exposure, something amazing happened. I stopped translating in my head. At first, my brain worked like this: English, translate to Portuguese, think response in Portuguese, translate back to English, slow, painful, exhausting. But one day in a store, a cashier asked me something simple, and I replied instantly without thinking. No translation, just English. I walked away and realized, wait, I'm thinking in English. If you're struggling, here's what I learned. 1. Speak every day, even alone. 2. Don't live in translation. Train your brain to think in English. 3. Talk to native speakers even when you're scared. 4. Surround yourself with English, phone, music, videos, daily life. 5. Make mistakes proudly. Mistakes are proof you're learning. 6. And most importantly, don't quit. After about 6 months, my English improved a lot. I could understand more, order food without fear, and talk with classmates. But I still had one big fear: conversations with native speakers. They spoke fast, used slang, and I felt stupid whenever I didn't understand. So I challenged myself. One morning in my favorite cafe, I promised, Today I will have a real conversation. No running away. A girl beside me commented about the long line. I froze. Then I answered. One sentence became two. Two became a short chat. Then she asked where I was from, and suddenly we were talking naturally. That moment gave me something I was missing: confidence. After that, I wanted to sound more natural, not just correct. So I practiced shadowing. I listened to native speakers in shows, paused, repeated their lines with the same tone and emotion, and copied their rhythm. I also kept a notebook of my mistakes and corrected them daily. Small corrections, repeated again and again, became big improvement. Then I forced myself to make Canadian friends through meetups, language exchanges, and conversations with co-workers. The more I used English in real life, the more natural it became. Still, life wasn't easy. Money was tight. I was tired. Some days I felt like giving up. I remember a time when I was almost broke, sitting in my room, crying, asking myself if I should go home. But I didn't come that far to quit. I told myself, I will build this. Years later, my life looks completely different. I live in the city. I'm proud of who I became, and I'm living the dream that once felt impossible. To enter medical school, I had to pass a major English exam. It was scary, reading long passages, speaking under pressure, writing academic answers. I studied every day. I practiced speaking recordings. I wrote essays. I read difficult materials. On exam day, I was shaking, but I told myself, you didn't come this far to fail. When I got the result and saw that I passed, I cried. Not because it was easy, but because I earned it. With my score, I was accepted into a strong medical university in Canada. But the real challenge started there. Advanced textbooks, complex lectures, medical terminology, presentations, and reports. It was harder than anything before. Yet I remembered one truth. If I can conquer English, I can conquer anything. I recorded lectures, reviewed them nightly, made flashcards, joined study groups, and explained medical topics in English until my brain got stronger. And finally, I graduated. I became Dr. Sophia. When I walked across that stage, I thought about my parents and whispered in my heart, "This is for you." I made it. After graduation, I got a job at a hospital in Toronto. My first salary felt unreal compared to the days I had almost nothing. But money wasn't the best part. The best part was helping people. One day a little girl came in, scared and crying. I held her hand and spoke gently, the way I once saw a doctor do for my brother. Her mother thanked me with tears in her eyes, and in that moment I felt something deep. I wasn't just an English learner anymore. I wasn't just a student. I was the person I promised myself I would become. Now listen carefully. Many people say, accept yourself as you are. I understand that. But I also believe something else. You should never accept staying weak forever. You should never accept living below your potential. No one is coming to rescue your dreams. Not your parents, not your teachers, not your partner. Only you can change your life. I could have made excuses. English is too hard. I don't have money. I'm not smart enough. But I didn't. I looked at myself and decided, no more excuses. It's time to work. So if you're still watching, it means you want more from life. Here's the truth. Learn English like your future depends on it. Because for many dreams, it does. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Speak to strangers. Make mistakes. Feel embarrassed. Then try again. That's how growth happens. Today, I live a life I'm proud of. Not because I was lucky, but because I worked for it. And you have the same choice. Option 1. Close this video and stay the same. Keep dreaming, keep waiting, keep making excuses. Option 2. Start today. Learn English every day. Improve yourself. Change your life. The choice is yours. If you choose the second option, subscribe, like this video, and let's begin your journey. Because when you become the best version of yourself, you'll feel like the world has opened its doors to you. Now, go build your future.